You get a core injury. You get a core injury. You at home, you get a core injury. I don't know what it is with this team and core injuries. Damian Lillard, Nasir Little, GP 2 weeks, and now Shaedon Sharpe. Shaedon Sharpe is set to undergo surgery on his core issue that he was trying to work his way back from. Apparently, once he started to ramp up on-court activity, his core issue didn't really get better. Apparently, it was kind of up and down, and the Blazers are deciding to correct this instead of letting it linger for like 5 years like Damian Lillard did, which I guess is a good thing in a season where the Blazers are rebuilding and Shaedon Sharpe is 20 years old. Better to get it fixed now than later. But man, this puts a damper on the trade deadline. But speaking of the trade deadline, we will have a fun live stream tomorrow morning, going live at approximately 8:30 p.m. Pacific time, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later, we'll see. But we'll be covering every trade across the NBA, breaking it down, me and my co-host Eric Brandt. We've done this every single year. I got a special graphics package that I've been working on for you guys, and it should be a really fun stream, so make sure to catch that stream tomorrow morning around 8:30 p.m. We will have live updating Twitter feeds, so you don't have to go scrolling through Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. We'll have live updating feeds for you guys, so you guys can just stare at the screen and see what updates, see what happens. So I'm looking forward to that. But man, this core injury for Shaedon Sharpe is an absolute bummer. Long term, I think Shaedon Sharpe's going to be just fine. I don't really have many thoughts on him long term. He's probably going to be out for the remainder of the season. I don't see him coming back from this within 2 months. I don't know what the quickest somebody has come back from a core surgery like this is, but I would expect Shaedon Sharpe to suit up for the Blazers next in fall of 2024. I don't think you're going to see him on the court anytime soon. But short term, this also might have ramifications for the Blazers. In the past couple of weeks, we've had a lot of debates about whether or not the Blazers should keep Malcolm Brogdon or not. And I think it was obvious that the Blazers should trade Malcolm Brogdon, with part of the reasoning being, how are you going to get minutes after the All-Star break for all three of Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, and Shaedon Sharpe? Now that Shaedon Sharpe is having surgery, obviously that changes the calculation in regards to not having a logjam of guards for probably the remainder of the season. And if Sharpe does come back, it'll probably be late, and the Blazers will probably be tanking by then, and Brogdon would probably be sitting by then, just like every other veteran in the final month of the season the past couple of years. So that is out the window. Now it purely comes down to, can the Blazers get back more value for Malcolm Brogdon at this year's trade deadline than they can in the offseason? I think that truly is the case, so I still think the Blazers should trade Malcolm Brogdon. But now some of the reasoning is out the window in regards to not having to clear up a logjam with a 31-year-old veteran playing ahead of your three young guards when you're rebuilding, which never really made sense to me. I will have Brogdon trade ideas as the next video. I'm actually planning on uploading 3 videos today. Well, at least get 2, this one and the Brogdon one. So stay tuned for that as I take a look at some trade packages. But man, I wonder how much this does truly change the calculation for Joe Cronin and the Blazers front office. It felt like they were putting out little signals that they were going to keep Malcolm Brogdon, and maybe that was to play up his value. And maybe this situation also helps play up his value because now the Blazers truly don't have to get rid of him. I thought if Sharpe was going to return, the Blazers pretty much had to get rid of Brogdon. Now it's a question of should they or shouldn't they. And at this point, I would expect the Blazers to keep Malcolm Brogdon on trade deadline day. The one interesting thing about that, though, is the Blazers are currently projected to be in the luxury tax if you account for the first round picks that they currently have, their own, as well as the 2024 first that Golden State owes to Portland. That's top 4 protected right now. I believe it's 11th in the lottery, so that's committed salary. If the Blazers use those picks, first round contracts are automatically guaranteed, and with that salary on the books as it stands, Portland would be in the luxury tax next offseason after using them going into next season. And I highly doubt the Blazers go into the offseason being projected to go into the tax. Obviously they can move salary around, or at draft time they can trade a Matisse Thybulle or even a Malcolm Brogdon in the offseason, maybe a Robert Williams, maybe a Jeremy Grant, I don't know. It also could depend on who the Blazers draft, depending on who they move. But I do think something does get done before the trade deadline. I just have a feeling it's not Malcolm Brogdon. I have a feeling it's going to be one of Matisse Thybulle or Robert Williams III, and if it's Robert Williams III, it's basically the Blazers dumping him for probably next to nothing. And when you look at the Houston Rockets just acquiring Steven Adams, who's out for the year just like Robert Williams is, and Houston gave up 3 second-round picks to get Steven Adams. They ended up trading out Victor Oladipo, who basically is an expiring contract. I think that Portland could have gotten that package from Houston. There was rumors about Houston looking to acquire Robert Williams III, but apparently Portland shut them down, and I think Steven Adams was the next option for the Rockets there. So it would be tough to see the Blazers then go and trade Robert Williams for a package that they just turned down, maybe even a package that's even less than they just turned down. But it could be a move to make sure that they're ducking the luxury tax headed into the offseason. I'm not too sure. I also think Thybulle might be a guy that gets traded, and going into next year, it might excuse the Blazers to keep Malcolm Brogdon because they just play Shaedon Sharpe at the 3 and have more minutes for Sharpe at the 3 with Thybulle being gone. I'm not sure, but it would be unlike the Blazers to go into next offseason being projected to be in the luxury tax, so that is something to watch on trade deadline day, and I would be surprised if nothing happened. I just think Malcolm Brogdon is going to be in a Portland Trail Blazer uniform after this trade deadline, and I feel like the Shaedon Sharpe thing solidified that, but I could be wrong. I have no idea if Brogdon's going to get traded or not. I can speculate and talk about my gut feeling, but I'm not Joe Cronin. I don't know what their plans are. Maybe they swing a trade where they get back really good value for Malcolm Brogdon, and I would applaud that move. I'm also a fan of the Blazers trading Jeremy Grant and getting good value back from him. What that looks like, I don't know. I dropped an article for $750 talking about that. But at the end of the day, I don't think the Blazers necessarily have to do anything. I think without Sharpe, it makes more sense to keep Brogdon until the offseason. But I do think this is when the Blazers could get the most value back for Malcolm Brogdon, given that a team trading for him would be trading for him for 2 playoff runs instead of 1. Teams seem to normally give up more at the deadline when they're trying to make a playoff push and want that extra piece like a Brogdon, compared to in the offseason when you have free agency, you have the draft, you have more avenues for adding players to your roster, and also it's not as urgent with it not being the trade deadline. So the trade deadline, I think, comes with a level of urgency that could play up Malcolm Brogdon's trade value. I hope that the Blazers still shop him and still look to move him in the next year. I hope this isn't something where they look to keep him and then give him an extension, because that doesn't make sense with Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, and Shaedon Sharpe on the roster without trading one of them. So we'll just have to wait and see how the Malcolm Brogdon saga plays out. I didn't expect it to be much of a saga. Most people agreed that Malcolm Brogdon should be traded at this year's trade deadline, but now it's up in the air, and the final conclusion to the Damian Lillard trade looks like it'll be on pause if Malcolm Brogdon does not get traded. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are about Shaedon Sharpe's injury, about the Malcolm Brogdon trade market. What do you expect? Do you think Brogdon will get traded? Do you think Shaedon Sharpe will be back this year? Just give me your thoughts in the comment section. I always enjoy reading those. And once again, we'll be live again tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time for our annual trade deadline live stream. Live Twitter feeds, analysis from myself and Eric Brandt. Hopefully you can join us for that one. It's always fun. And with that being said, I'm out of here. I'll catch you next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.